Hey, bless Shabbat, everybody. I'm coming to you live. First, give praises and honor to the Most High, Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael. This breakdown I'm about to do, it's actually been long overdue. I never did do it. Actually, I kind of alluded to it in one of our videos on YouTube at the Spirit of YAH, the one called Saturday or Sunday, which one is the Shabbat day, something like that. But I don't think I got like really in depth with this subject concerning the Lunar Shabbat. So because I'm in a dialogue with a brother presently right now, today being February the 21st, 2020, I decided to go ahead and do a video breakdown regarding this, okay? So some of you are familiar with the Lunar Shabbat. Some of you may have never heard of Lunar Shabbat before. So let me kind of touch on what that doctrine is. The doctrine is that the first day of the month, oh man, I just thought about something else with it. I'm glad I said that. The first day of the month is considered to Lunar Shabbat should be a new moon. Okay? And with the way that they count it, I'm not sure if they go by the actual new moon, which you really should. Okay? But anyway, that new moon is followed by the first day of the week, and you count 7 days until you get to a Sabbath, the 7th day, which is the 7th day of that month. So some lunar Sabbatarians or Shabbatians, however you want to pronounce it, they do it different. Some go by new moon and then you count 7 days. Okay, so some will say on the 8th day of the month, the 15th day of the month, the 22nd day of the month, and the 29th day of the month are all Sabbaths every month consistent. Okay, which would mean that there are 29 days in every month. Okay, but we know that the lunar cycle, when I say lunar cycle, I mean the moon cycle, is a 29.5 day cycle, okay? So something is going to be kind of mixed up in there, okay? Okay, and then you have some lunar Sabbatarians that says the first day of the month is the new moon, but that's the first day. So they say that the 7th day, the 14th day, the 21st day, and the 28th day are the Sabbaths in every month. Okay, so that is the doctrine that they have regarding that. Okay, so we're gonna annihilate that false doctrine, because what happened, and here's something: if you're not familiar with the Hebrew Israelite community, you have to understand this one thing about us, okay, and that we are no different from our forefathers. If you go back in Yahshua's day, as an example, you had so many different sects and so many different beliefs based off of man-made understandings. Because see, the thing about us is that the one foundation that we have in our culture, or if you want to say belief system, is that it's all founded around knowledge, okay? It's not a blind faith religious dynamic. It's about knowledge and understanding. And so because there's a dynamic of knowledge and understanding, as a people, we are going to have these debates the same way we did 2,000 years ago when Yahshua was walking this earth, and he dealt with Sadducees, Pharisees, Zealots, and even subsects of those Sadducees, Pharisees, Zealots, and all that. So a lot of people, they get kind of put off by the fact that as Hebrew Israelites, we do have all these different things, but just on the side note, you have to understand that Hebrew Israelites is a nation of people. It is a people. It is a nationality. It is a race of people. And there is no one race where everyone shares the same beliefs. It's impossible because it's not a belief system. It is a bloodline. It's an ethnicity, okay? So therefore, just because all Americans don't have the same beliefs, all Greeks, all Ethiopians, all whatever Nigerians, all have different beliefs, as they should, because they are individual people, but they share a common bloodline. The same thing applies to us. So it's kind of unfortunate that when people hear the term Hebrew Israelite, they think we're talking about a religious sect, and it's not a religious sect at all. Okay, so I'm gonna let you take some time to process that. And so here in our ethnicity, our nationality, the Commonwealth of Yisrael, or Israel, if you will, there's a certain sect that, and again, let me break that down too, because even among us, you have some groups that believe certain things. Some groups believe that the white man is Esau. Some groups that believe that the 12 tribes of Israel are limited to specific places in the Western Hemisphere. And they have a 12-tribe chart to show that. Okay, you have quite a few Israelites that have that dynamic and understanding. So, I don't subscribe to any of those, by the way. But to make a long story short, let's deal with this one issue here. And that is the Lunar Shabbat doctrine, okay? All right. I'm going to try not to be long-winded at this point. Start this at the beginning. I'm going to start this at Genesis, the first chapter, just to show you something here. Genesis, first chapter, gives us the order of the creation and the 6 days of the creation. And we're not going to read it. I'm just going to allude to it, Genesis, first chapter. But then in the second chapter, the first verse, it says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day, Elohim ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made." Okay, so the creation is the foundation for Shabbat. Okay, on another note, and thank you for posting that passage. Thank you, Tandalet Rashid. Back up in Genesis, the first chapter, and let's look at something here. Genesis, the first chapter, and I'm going to start this at the, no, I'm sorry. Genesis, the first chapter, and verse 14. Check this out. Genesis 1 and 14, it says, "And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. Okay, so using creation as a basis for understanding Sabbath, because we already read how he hallowed and blessed the Sabbath day 6 days after the creation, which would be the 7th day. We find here in the first chapter that the moon specifically was created on the 4th day. So therefore, On the first day of creation, there was no moon. So the count for the week from day one to the seventh day had nothing to do with a moon or the lunar dynamic. Had nothing to do with it. Okay? Nothing to do with it. Okay? Now, turn our attention to Exodus, the 20th chapter, which is where the 10 Commandments are listed there. Exodus, the 20th chapter. Exodus, the 20th chapter, and start this at the 8th verse. Exodus, the 20th chapter and the 8th verse, and it reads here. It says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah thy Elohim. In it thou shalt not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates." Okay? So not only is this a universal commandment, but also when we were in our land, it was the law of the land. So the stranger that came in our land, he was subject to that. Just like when you go to China, you're subject to all the laws of China. When you go to Nigeria, when you go to Russia, you may not understand all them laws, but you are absolutely subject to them. And if you break those laws, you are going to be arrested, and the judge will convict you according to however he's going to convict you, according to those laws. Okay, so in the nation of the Most High, it is the exact same thing. There is no transgression going on there, and if a transgression happens, there has to be consequences and repercussions based off of that transgression, no matter what your ethnicity is. Okay, so here we find in the 10 Commandments, there is a ordinance in the 10 Commandments to remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. Okay, verse 11 reads, it says, "For in 6 days," it's giving you the reasoning behind the keeping of the Sabbath day. It says, "For in 6 days Yahuwah made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it." This was taken directly from Genesis, from the creation. So therefore, when we read this commandment in the 10 Commandments, it's letting us know that the creation is the foundation, the creation is the order for the keeping of the Sabbath day. And if the creation is the order, then that means that there was no moon that existed to begin the count for the 7-day Sabbath. No moon at all. Okay? So now, but because we think that we have a higher level of understanding and we read certain things and we twist it to our own understanding, we want to believe that the days of the month coincide with the days of the week. In other words, the first day of the month is also the first day of the week. Or there's a day that is a new moon, and then you count 7 days from the new moon, and now you have your Sabbath. Nothing in the scriptures ever suggested that. And as a matter of fact, that's going to be the next points I'm going to make. I'm halfway there. Again, I don't mean for this to be a long video. Matter of fact, I think I have 3 more places I have to get to prove a point here. Okay. Let's go on to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. I'm going to show you something here. This is going to show you absolutely why the lunar Sabbath doctrine is absolutely false, okay? Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, is speaking about all of the actual holy days, or if you want to say holidays, they're one and the same. The holy holidays of the Most High. Okay, so if that day is not listed here in Leviticus 23rd chapter, then it is not a holiday or a holy day. It isn't. Everything else is man-made. Okay, so Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, I'm going to skip down directly to the point. This is referring to the day that is known as the Feast of Weeks. In the New Testament, it's given the name Pentecost, okay? In the Hebrew, it's Chag Shavuot, okay? But Feast of Weeks is the focus here because to get to this day, you have to count weeks. Okay, so let's look at this here. It says, I'm going to go down to the, let's start this off at the 9th verse. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and the 9th verse, okay? Now, he've already given us the ordinance of Passover. So we're going to start this at the 9th verse, and it says, and Yahuwah spake unto Shemaiah, and absolutely I refer to him as Shemaiah, because that is what his name was given before his Egyptian mother, Thermuthis, gave him the Egyptian name of Moses. You know, and just on a side note, because I know you're going to read Moses throughout the scriptures, and that's fine, but he was given a name, and that name was Shemaiah, and you can read about that in other texts. And even if you don't happen to believe that, you got to keep in mind that he was born, and it was 3 months before his mother, Yehebet, and his sister Miriam placed him in an ark, and that it placed it in the flags outside of where the Egyptian or Mizraimite daughter of Pharaoh would come and would bathe. And when she went and to bathe, she found this ark planted right there for her to get to it. Planted right there in the flags, and the ark didn't move, float, whatever. It was planted in the flags, if you read the scriptures. But the point is that he was 3 months old then, and very few people can comprehend that he had a name before his Egyptian mother, adopted mother, would give him a name. And on a whole nother note, just so I can, elevate your senses to a whole nother level, the scripture says that the name Moses means drawn from the water, okay? But you can get even more deeper than that, because absolutely the name has a meaning. You can't deny the meaning of the name, but how about the fact that his Egyptian father and other pharaohs had the name Moses? Again, so if you look it up in history and do the research, you will find that Moses was a common name for the pharaohs, just like Ramses and other names that pharaohs had then. Okay, so it's a little bit deeper than the fact that he was drawn from the water, a little bit deeper than that. But and on the side note, my book that I finished this year called Shemaiah the Lawgiver, it touches on a whole lot of that, okay? So, to make a long story short again, to think that absolutely, Tutmos, absolutely, to think that this child went without a name for 3 months is ridiculous, first and foremost. And on another side, though, when the Father established us in our land, in the land of Canaan, just about everything that he gave us to observe, from the Ten Commandments to all the other laws and statutes, were laws that were contrary to what we were under for 400 years, which was Mizraimite or Egyptian authority. When you look and study those laws, you will find that to be absolutely correct, because he wanted to deliver us out of the whole Mizraimite way of thinking. Okay. And the same thing is going to apply to when we are finally back in our land at the coming of the Most High, bringing us back. We're going to have to be delivered from this whole time being in the land of our captivity, from their religions, from their traditions, from their dynamics. So it's going to be the exact same thing. The reason why I'm saying that is that it would not be feasible that the leader of our people, the first leader of our people, would still be called by a name that would reflect Egyptian. So just about every Israelite had the name YAH in their names, or had the name El in their names, reflecting the Most High, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yeah, here's the leader, and he's being called after the name given to him by his Egyptian mother, reflecting the other Egyptian leaders of that day. Here's another note. Joseph, his name means Yahuwah shall add. And again, I'm going a whole lot of different places, but that's what his name means. Yahuwah shall add. Yahawasap, or Yosef, or Joseph, whichever one that you choose to call him, that's what his name means. Okay? When he was under Mizraimite authority, the Pharaoh gave him a new name to reflect their God, a God of dreams, a God of interpretation, or whatever. Zaphnatha Paneah. And I might be mispronouncing that. And you can find that in the scriptures. I'm not sure. It's like Genesis, the 42nd chapter, or something like that. You can go back there and read it. Well, I'm not going to read it now, but you can go back. That's right here in the scriptures, okay? But his name was Yosef. So if that worked for Yosef, that he understood that there was a slave name given to him, and he had his own name, the same works for Shemaiah. It absolutely works for Shemaiah, because Shemaiah means hear Yah. Hear ye Yah. Yah hears. It has Yah and it has hear in his name, which is a very appropriate name that was given. And book of reference, the book of Jasher mentions that, okay? The book of Jasher specifically gives us that name, but there are other references give us that name as well. But again, it makes perfectly sense to me, because this child didn't go 3 months in his life nameless, okay? If you don't believe anything else, just comprehend that. It's just that nobody really thought about, wow, what was this child's name when this Egyptian mother saw him and she gave him a name reflected of, and that's another thing that we do. Because some of us, for some reason, we thought Moses was Hebrew. And then we say, no, we're not going to say Moses. We're going to say Moshe, because that's Hebrew. Well, guess what? Moses was the name that was given to him because Hebrew didn't have anything to do with it. Okay? But again, I always tend to go off, but I have to, because we're in a place here where I'm trying to prove a point here. Okay? So let's get back to this. Okay? Annihilating the Lunar Shabbat. Okay? So here, we're in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and it says, verse 9 again, And Yahuwah spake unto Shemaiah, saying, Speak unto the children of Yashrael, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it, okay? Now, traditionally, we make the count for the Feast of Weeks after the first day of after Passover, the first day of unleavened bread. That's what we have done traditionally, but the scriptures don't say that that is the marking for doing it. It's just something that we have done traditionally, but in the land, we were given the ordinance that the kickoff time was when you put the sickle to the harvest. That's the way it reads, and I think in Deuteronomy. But here in Leviticus, it says, again, verse 10, Speaking to the children of Yashrael, and saying to them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and you shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah to be accepted for you. And on the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it. And you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf Annihilating without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto Yahuwah. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2 tenth deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof should be of the wine and the fourth part of a hin. And you shall eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the selfsame day that you have bought an offering unto your Elohim. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Okay? And you shall count. Here it is, right here. Here's the point. Don't get stuck on the stuff that I previously read. I was just getting to this part here. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat. Okay? The morrow after the Shabbat. Because what happened here again? The priest waved it on the morrow after the Shabbat. That's what it says at the 11th verse. Here it says, And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you bought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Shabbat shall you number 50 days. So it sounds to me like you're counting 7 Sabbaths or 7 weeks. And then when you get to that 7th Sabbath, that 49 days have passed. And that next day, the 50th day, which is always the first day of the week. Because you got some people out here teaching that, the feast of weeks, that observance it could be any day of the week. No, it could only be on the first day of the week because you counted 7 Sabbaths, which is the 7th day of the week. And the day after is the 50th day, which is where they get the name Pentecost from, because Pentecost simply means 50. It don't mean anything else but a number 50. It don't mean the anointing of the Holy Spirit and all these other things that people apply to it. Pentecost, by definition, simply means 50. So here it says again on the 16th verse, it says, Even unto the morrow after the 7th Shabbat shall you number 50 days, or it should read, you should count the 50th day. And you shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahuwah. Okay, so this 50th day here is referring again to the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Pentecost. Okay, what that has to do with the Lunar Shabbat? This is what it has to do with the Lunar Shabbat. Lunar Shabbat doctrine is that you have the new moon. It stands by itself. It's not part of no week. It just stands by itself. And then, right, Pente, 5, absolutely. That's correct. Okay, so you have the new moon, and then you count 7 days. And then that 7 days is Shabbat. Then you count 7 days again. 14th day of the month, that's another Shabbat. Or no, the 15th day, that's another Shabbat. Then 7 more days, the 22nd is another Shabbat. Right. And then there's 7 more days. The 29th of the month is another Shabbat. Well, here's an interesting thing about that. A new moon is in the midst of 50 days or 7 Shabbats. So if you stick a new moon in that, you will break up that 7-day cycle because you got to count 7 Sabbaths. And those 7 Sabbaths must equal 49 days. The 7 Sabbaths can't equal 50 days or 51 days. They must be 49 days. If you stick a new moon inside of that and count it as its own day, then you done messed up the count. You can't get 49 days from 7 Sabbaths. Think about that for a minute. And for the other Sabbatarians that say that the first day of the month is the new moon, they'll tell you just like how it is right now this month. This month right here, good example. This month right here, this is February of 2020 that we're in. Guess what? February the 7th was a Sabbath, a 7-day Sabbath. The 14th, which was last week, was a Sabbath. The 21st, which is today, the Sabbath, is a Sabbath. Next week is the 28th day. That's a Sabbath as well. So if you got 28 days, guess what? If the new moon began this month, and now we're at the 28th day of the month, guess what? We still have to wait for a new moon because the new moon would not come after 28 days. It takes 29 and a half days for there to be a new moon. The moon cycle is 29 and a half days. And I hope I didn't lose some of you all here because if you don't pay attention, it's pretty complex. It's pretty complex if you don't pay attention, okay? The point is that if you go by 7, 14, 21, 28, then when you look for the next Sabbath, you got another day that's going to come after the 28th day, but it won't be a new month. It won't be a new moon. So now you got a day hanging out still. Therefore, the 7-day cycle is messed up. See, unless there were 28 equal days every single month, and there's not. Matter of fact, there's not one month that has 28 days in it according to the moon cycle. You're not going to have 7 Sabbaths equaling 49 days. Therefore, the 7th day of the week is consistent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 7-day cycle never stops. It never stops. In order to get 7 Sabbaths equaling 49 days, that 49 days can't be interrupted. Okay? That right there annihilates the dynamic of the Lunar Shabbat doctrine. Okay? Please, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just play this over. Play it over and listen very carefully, and you will absolutely understand what I'm saying, okay? Now, let's look at another reference to absolutely annihilate the Lunar Shabbat doctrine. So again, in the Lunar Shabbat doctrine, some say the 7th day or the 8th day is a Sabbath, depending on how you look at it. Some say the 14th and the 14th and the 15th day is the next Sabbath. The 21st and the 22nd day is the next Sabbath. And the 28th and the 29th day, either one is the Sabbath, okay? I'm about to show you how all of that is absolutely incorrect. It's absolutely incorrect, okay? Let's turn our attention to Luke, the 24th chapter. Luke, the 24th chapter. And again, Pentecost have already annihilated the Lunar Shabbat doctrine, clearly. Um, Luke, the 24th chapter. Okay. I'm gonna focus on one verse here, and then I'm gonna have to go back so we can see what we read. I have to do this the same way I do Deuteronomy 28 chapter. Every time I teach Deuteronomy 28 chapter, I always start at that 45th verse, I believe, where it says, "And they shall be for a sign and a wonder upon thy seed forever." I want people to understand what we're reading about, and then I go back and break it down, if that makes sense. I'm going to do the same thing right here. Luke 24th chapter and the 21st verse. Luke 24 and 21. Watch this. It says, "But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Yashrael. And besides all this, today is the third day since these things were done." Okay? So this is somebody saying this, okay? And the he they're talking about is Yeshua, the Messiah. "But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Yashrael. And besides all this, today is the third day since these things were done." So something happened 3 days prior to this person making this statement. And he said that the day that he's speaking is the third day that these things had happened. So in reading that verse, what we have to do is we're going to have to determine what it was he was talking about. What day of the week it was that he said this, and what was the date of the month that he made this statement. Okay, so now let's go back to verse 1, and we're going to come all the way back up to this 21st verse so we can understand what's happening here. Okay, 24 and verse 1 reads this: "Now upon the first day of the week," and absolutely the doctrine is already abolished by this first verse. It is. But just in case they do other bells and whistles to try to talk out of understanding this, I had to go to the 21st verse to totally annihilate it, okay? But what we read here: "Now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, there came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. And they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre, and they entered in and found not the body of the Master Yeshua. And it came to pass, as they were much perplexed thereabout, behold, 2 men stood by them in shining garments. And as they were afraid, and bowed down their faces to earth, they said unto them, Why seek ye the living among the dead? He is not here, but he is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee." This is Yeshua that they're talking about. Yeshua was crucified, and he had promised his disciples that he would be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay? Watch this. See, we got to read these scriptures really literal to get a great understanding. Going back up, it says, "Now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning." Okay, get that time frame. The first day of the week we now call Sunday, the day after Shabbat. What's happening here, for sake of argument, is happening Sunday morning, very early in the morning. In Matthew, it says, while it was yet dark. They came to seek after him, but they saw the stone rolled away, and here these angels standing there and telling, "Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here, for he is risen." Okay, very early Sunday morning, he was already gone. When they got there, they didn't see him rise. He was already gone. Okay? In Christianity, they teach that he rose up early Sunday morning, but he was already gone. Okay? Now, real quick, I don't want to get caught up. Well, no, I have to get caught up in this because this is part of this lesson. The book of Daniel prophesied in the 9th chapter, and we're not going to go back there and read it. Read it on your own. Daniel 9:25, it gives us a twofold prophecy. But I'm only going to deal with the one-fold part of that prophecy, that he will be cut off in the midst of the week, or in the middle of the week. And since the week has 7 days in it, we find that the 4th day of the week is considered the middle of the week. So if we count Sunday as first day of the week, Monday and Tuesday, that's 3 days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is the middle of the week, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay? So on this particular year that he died on Passover. And Passover occurred on the middle of the week. What day of the month does Passover falls on? Those who understand the calendar understands that Passover is on the 14th day of the first month, which is called Abib. The 14th day. So in the middle of the week, it was a Wednesday that he died and was cut off in the middle of the week. And again, that's a twofold prophecy, but I'm not going to get on the other fold of that prophecy. I'm only going to deal with this part of the prophecy, the middle of the week, which would agree with what we're reading here, because it says on the first day of the week. By the first day of the week, he was already risen. So therefore, if you back up 3 days prior to that, it's the middle of the week, what we call Wednesday, at the end of the day, which would be Passover, because he died the exact same time the Passover lambs died. And again, I don't want to get too deep, because you go in the New Testament, you will find that he's keeping the Passover with his disciples, but they weren't keeping it at the actual time of the Passover. He was showing them how they would keep the Passover from henceforth with the bread and the wine. And that's what he was showing them, because he could not keep the Passover and be the Passover at the same time. Think about that. Because he had to die at a specific time, and he absolutely did die the same time the Passover lamb died. Okay? And the book of John is very clear on showing that. When he was up on the cross, they told you it was then the Passover, which is the day before the high Sabbath. And a lot of people think that day, the next Sabbath, was the weekly Sabbath. No. It was the high Sabbath, the feast of unleavened bread, the first day of unleavened bread. All right. The point is that if he died in the middle of the week, and if the middle of the week was the Passover, that means that the 14th day of Abib, and again, their doctrine is that the 14th or the 15th is Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath. No, it's not, because when he died, it was in the middle of the week, Wednesday on the 14th day of the month. So again, nowhere in the scriptures do you read that every day of the first day of the week is also the first day of the month, that they coincide. You don't find that nowhere throughout this entire book. You don't find that. Okay, but let's keep reading, because I want to get down to the 21st verse to kind of, just like how you have to check your math. This is how we're going to check the math, okay? So again, we in Luke, the 24th chapter, and it says, pick that up. Verse 6 says, he is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee, saying, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again. Okay, so watch this. And they remembered his words and returned from the sepulchre and told all these things unto the 11 and to all the rest. It was Miriam Magdalene and Joanna and Miriam, the mother of James, and other women that were with them, which told these things unto the apostles. Okay? And if you understand everything that I'm bringing forth, you are blessed. Believe me, because I know it might be somewhat confusing, but to mold you, if you listen to it real slow and read along and understand, you will get this. Okay? Verse 11. And their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they believed them not. Then arose Kepha, or Peter, and ran into the sepulchre, and stooping down, he held the linen clothes laid by themselves, and departed, wondering in himself at that which was come to pass. And behold, two of them went that same day. What's that day? The first day of the week. And guess what? Let's look at that. If that's the first day of the week, then that means it's 3 days after Sabbath. So the date would have been, if Wednesday was the 14th day of Abib, matter of fact, sundown, Wednesday was the 14th day of Abib, right? As it's about to get the 15th day, which was the Thursday, 16th day, which was the Friday, 17th day is the 7th day of that month. Okay? And now we're on the 18th day, the first day of the week. So you will understand that the first day of the week of that month was either the 17th or the 18th, depending on how you're counting it. The 17th or the 18th is the first day of the week. And I'm pretty sure it was the 18th day, which was the Sunday, the first day of so that means that the Sabbath had to fall on the 17th day of the month. The Sabbath that he rose would have been the 17th day of the month. It could not have been the 14th day, which was Passover. It could not have been the 15th day. Hopefully that's clear. Because Passover occurred in the middle of the week, or what we call Wednesday, and it's the 14th day of the month. Okay, and keep reading. We're almost done here. So again, the 13th verse says, and behold, two of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 80 furlongs. Again, we're going to call this day Sunday, the first day of the week. And they talked together of all these things which had happened, and it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Yahshua himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes was holding that they should not know him. And he said unto them, what manner of communication are these that you have one to another as you walk and are sad? And one of them, whose name was Cleophas, so now we know who's speaking here. This is Cleophas speaking. Answering said unto him, that sounds like a black name too, Cleophas. That's another topic. Like Rufus or something like that. You can almost get a picture of what Cleophas looked like. Okay? Answer said unto him, are you only a stranger in Jerusalem and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said unto them, what things? And they said unto him concerning Yahshua of Nazareth, which was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before Elohim and all the people. How the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and have crucified him. Keyword, crucify him. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Yahshua. And besides all this, today is the 3rd day since these things were done. Today is the first day of the week. Today is Sunday. Today is 3 days after he was crucified. The 14th day was 3 days ago. So so from the first verse to the 21st verse, it's clear that they're speaking on the 18th day of Abib. On the first day, yesterday was the Sabbath, the 17th day of Abib. And prior to that going all the way back to Wednesday, was the middle of the week, the 14th day of Abib, Passover. Okay, so anyway, I rest that case in regarding Lunar Sabbath. Okay, so if you know anybody that observed the Lunar Sabbath, if you ever heard of it or whatever, now you are thoroughly, what's the word, weaponized, thoroughly furnished to be able to deal with that. Okay, before I cut this video off, I want to ask, was there anything that I said that didn't sound clear? Do you remember anything that was given that wasn't really clear? Because I know I said a whole lot of stuff here, and sometimes you just have to go back over it, read it again, or hear it again, rather, to get an understanding of it. Okay. Because you said this one is clearer to understand, which made me think that there was something that may not have been too clear. And I don't mind going over it since I'm in a video right now. If somebody happened to see this video later, though, they can absolutely ask. Oh, you didn't get the first part. Was that the first part, the part about the Pentecost, was it? Was that it? Are you talking about the part about the Pentecost? Is that the part that was confusing? Because those were the two major points that I brought out in regarding this. The whole count of the Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, and this here in the New Testament that we just read. Well, yeah, okay, so let me simplify that for you. You have to have 49 days. 7 times 7 is 49. So it clearly tells us that you count 7 Sabbaths, 7 days. It will give you 49 days. The next day is the 50th day, which is Pentecost. So do you remember that when he's talking about counting 7 Sabbaths? The point is that if you add in 7 Sabbaths, you're always going to have a new moon in the 7 Sabbaths. You're going to have a new moon inside of it. So if you have a new moon inside of it, if you count a new moon as its own day, or even if you believe that every new moon is the first day of the week as well as the first day of the month, your count will be off. Simple as that. Because you need 7 days to count, 7 weeks of Sabbaths to get 49 days. But you say, oh, well, we first have a new moon, and then we count 7 days after the new moon. You just added a day inside of the 49 days. And most 49 days, you're going to have 2 new moons inside of 49 days. You're not going to have 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. Right, because you cannot fit in a separate day inside of a consistent 7 times 7, 49 days. Neither can you say that the first day of the month, the new moon, is also the first day of the week. Right, because see, just say if you say the first day of the month is also the first day of the week, right? New moon, 7 days to Sabbath. You're doing 7, 14, 21, 28. You're doing the 28 days. That gives you full Sabbaths right there. Then you're still waiting for the new moon, because the new moon ain't going to come on that 28th day or the 29th day. It's going to be a whole nother 2 days, up to 2 more days before you get a new moon. And like you say, you have to recount it. Because see, they got a day that exists that is not in a week. And that's impossible. The Father, and I'm glad I stopped it for a minute. Brother that I was dealing with says, well, bro, Scripture don't says that every Saturday is a Sabbath. Scripture don't say that every Saturday is the Sabbath. I'm like, dude, the Romans, and before it was the Romans, it was actually the Norwegians, the Teutonic people. They named the 7th-day Saturday. Okay? They put a name to Saturday. But if you go down to Mexico and in other places, I've learned, a lot of places call it a variation of Sabbatos or other names built around Sabbath. But Mexico, that's what they call the 7th-day, Sabbatos. So how are you going to give Saturn some kind of license to say it's not the Sabbath, but then other people have a form of Sabbath in the name that they call the Sabbath, the 7th-day? Again, so I want to throw that out there again. I didn't want to be long-winded. Hope that you all got something out of this. This is a video I should have did years ago, but sometimes it takes me to get into a dialogue with people to remind me to touch on it, okay? So again, you all have a blessed Shabbat. We're coming up on a new year pretty soon, in about another month or so. It's less than a month, because we're just about approaching March now. But no, it's about another month. We're going to be in the new year, okay? So anyway, y'all bless everyone and enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Peace.